Welcome, everybody, to another live recording of the Business Travel 360 Linking the Travel Industry podcast, where we discuss travel industry news you're talking about on LinkedIn. My name is Rian, and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm a co-founder at Agentivity, where we ensure TMCs operate as efficiently as possible. If that sounds of interest, or you just want to talk to somebody in some experience in that field, please get in touch. As usual, and just by the nick of time, I'm joined by Ash and Anne. Over to you, Anne. From which airport are you calling in?
Not an airport. So from Zurich Hauptbahnhof, the main station in Zurich. I got in 1 minute ago. So welcome, everybody. I'm Anne. I'm an independent consultant with LeapShift and happy to help you with anything regarding distribution, be that airline or travel sellers. Over to you, Ash.
Thank you, Anne. Hi, everyone. My name is Ash, and I'm the host of a weekly business travel podcast called What's Up in Business Travel, where we give you the important updates in under 15 minutes. Additionally, I'm the Vice President of Client Success at Traxo, and this is Linking the Travel Industry.
So the format of our discussion here is a quick, non-biased, and spontaneous review of the previous week. Today, we are going to go over this year's top stories and just tell you some interesting facts. We do have a few stories to cover from last week, which was week 51. Another airline going into administration. This time it's Air Albania ceasing flight operations. I think this is number 8 this year, Anne. We're not too surprised about Air Albania, are we?
No, not at all. I mean, we talked about it before that there are too many airlines in Europe. And I believe we're covering another story on Croatia, right? And the question is, how much money are the governments going to pour into these bleeding airlines that obviously suffer from corruption problems and what to do about them, right?
Any comments, Ash?
Well, I just wanted to say that according to AI, 29 airlines ceased or significantly paused operations in 2025. Wow. It's a quite big number, and I think it started to pick up steam as the year came to a close.
Yeah, and as Anne pointed out, another story which caught our eye is the fact that Croatia Airlines is asking for a government bailout of about 150 million euros. That's really not something we want to see, right, Anne? It's not when the Ryanairs of this world are doing so well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how long can it go on for? And I think in the comments we were questioning, what does the European Union, what is their position on that? How long can we go on? I mean, these markets are tiny, as you know, and it's just not sustainable with the population size of the country and the, markets that they can fly to. I mean, it clearly is unprofitable, right? And how much money can you pour into this?
News of the States, 2 stories involving Frontier. The first one being that the CEO is suddenly exiting after 11 years. I don't know too much about this, but I think, Ash, you might know more.
This is something that has been brewing for quite a long time. And I think that the reason why Barry is out is because he was one of the folks that was trying to prevent the merger. I think that taking on Spirit for Frontier is definitely almost like taking a poison pill, but hoping that you somehow survive it. So they're going to do their very, very best. I think the only way Spirit survives is through this merger. And they need it for sure. I mean, they just got another bunch of money coming in just to pay bills. So they're almost day to day. There's really nothing left to cut at Spirit besides the airline now completely. So this is the final straw. And if Frontier is going to make a move, this would be the only time left for them to do that.
Any comments on both of those stories, Anne?
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because, there is nothing left for Spirit now. They have to merge.
And remember that Frontier stocks did go up. So the market is also saying that this is the right move. So it's not just Anne and I agreeing on a story here. This is actually the market responding.
Very good. I just want to do something quickly for a minute. We're not done. We've got quite a few more stories, but I just want to turn to the audience and say thank you so much for giving us your time on a Monday. We've got a packed room today. One of the things we do love is to hear from you. So please comment on the stories. But whilst we have this slide up, just comment and tell us where you are listening from. And we'll bring that on screen because the other purpose here of Linking the Travel Industry is to get more of us connected. So if your name gets on screen, maybe you'll get a few more extra connection requests, which will be fantastic. So please do. Got a few more stories we have to cover. Interesting story which I picked up on was the news that Amtrak is becoming available within Travelport, courtesy of Silver Rail. And this made me think of you, Ash. This is all the right boxes for you, right? Train travel, American train travel, all that stuff. Are you ready to book that with your Travelport agent?
Yeah, this is a really depressing story. When I saw it on the list, I was like, okay, so what? What's the big deal? Bringing Amtrak Rail is not like you're bringing the best of the best. You're basically bringing something that's below average in quality and everything else. So good luck to everybody who's going to buy an Amtrak ticket.
They're damned if they do and they're doomed if they don't. What's the saying, right? And can't win. Surprise announcement from Finnair about a new route that they are doing. And this is a fascinating story. So they announced they're going to fly. Unfortunately, it's only by October of next year. So it's quite some time away. But they've announced they're going to fly between Helsinki and Melbourne via Bangkok. And interestingly enough, they have first freedom rights between Bangkok and Melbourne as well. If I read this correctly, they will be the only European airline flying out of Europe on a pretty direct flight, except with the stop in Bangkok, over to Australia. So obviously it's a good move for them. I'm just surprised that, it's only now kind of thing. And the second thing that surprised me is Melbourne as opposed to Sydney or somewhere else. But Anne, what do you make of this?
Well, I get Melbourne. I really do. Yeah, because it's more, I think, interesting from a corporate perspective. But what really surprises me is that, again, Finland is a very, very tiny market. The Nordics is incredibly tiny. It's 27 million people. I mean, Tokyo is 37 million people. Australia, I believe, is 25 million people? So we're talking a very, very small market going to a very small market via a rather big one. So I'm really surprised by this.
I used to use Finnair over to Asia because it was the shortest route, right? They had always the best routes. They used to have very good connections over the UK. So maybe that's what they're hoping here, right?
Yeah.
Ash, you can hop over to Helsinki, right? And then hop down to Melbourne.
So when I read the story, Rian and Anne, I thought this was a big mistake by Finnair. And the reason is that to say that we have a new long-haul route, oh, by the way, it's a connection route. Like, okay, it's not really a long-haul route anymore then. You're kind of putting two new flights together. So they should have actually come out with two press releases. One is that we have a flight to Bangkok and another flight to Melbourne. So for me, I thought it was kind of hilarious that they were doing it in this way.
And then a funny story which tickled me a bit was the fact that Qantas, who's working very hard on their Project Sunrise, which is the ultra long haul flights, from the UK to Australia, etc., they've sent letters out to previous executives and board members who obviously hold these lifetime perks. And they've said to them, no, not on Project Sunrise. You won't get, I believe, only not first class. I believe they can still use their perks, but they can't go first class. Bit of a strange one, right, Anne, to be doing that specific to this?
Well, actually, I think it's a good move. I mean, come on. Okay. I mean, if you give people a lifetime perks like that, really, in first class? I mean, really? I think it's a, really good decision. But again, I mean, they must have done the maths on this.
What about you, Ash? What do you think?
Yeah, the math is that we could have sold this to another passenger that will pay money. So, and they're not going to be able to because you're on the plane. Yeah, they should downgrade everybody to coach only and leave it there.
Okay, so those were the stories from week 51. Now we have asked Gemini to go through our stories from all of this year and give us, first of all, a summary and then this very tiny infographic. What I asked Ash and Anne to do as well was just to tell me what they thought were the stories which stood out for them, and I'll do the same from my side. But I thought I'd just give a few quick stats. So no surprise. The year had a bit of a trend, as it turns out. So quarter one was all about consolidation news. Obviously, the Amex GBT CWT merger was a hot topic. And then in quarter two, we shifted to talk more about partnerships. There were quite a few nice collaborations happening in our industry. And then in quarter three, according to Gemini, we talked more about digital transformation, although I can't remember that at all. And then quarter four was a bit more turbulent with 6 bankruptcies and more regulatory focus. So that's interesting to see how the year went about. unexpected stuff that happened this year, which we didn't expect. And I have to say, the one story that did stand out for me is this one, the fact that Seat Guru shut down. I was so shocked about that. And to me, that is my story of the year. Obviously, Amex GBT dominated the news. Amex GBT were CWT. And also the strange bit that they explored a sale just months after their CWT acquisition. And then another big one is about Ryanair discontinuing its Prime loyalty program. And of course, the Indigo disruptions. Now, before I go into the companies we mentioned the most, Ash, what is your take on the year? How did you find the year shaping up? And do you agree with Gemini's assessment of that flow?
Who am I to question artificial intelligence on anything that it tells? I will go with whatever Gemini says. But a couple of stories that I thought that were not on this list, if that's okay. Uh-huh. One was the launch of Atmos by Alaska and Hawaiian. I thought that was a pretty big, significant move. Keep in mind that this is all lined up with Oneworld, and Hawaiian just made their announcement that they're going to be part of Oneworld in April 2026. The other big story I thought was also that Southwest's change of strategy this year. That was a huge move, right? They were talking about they had 2 bags fly free. Now they're charging for bags. They had open seating. Now they're positioning people for seats. So that was a significant shift. And of course, that is all lined up with low-cost airlines shifting into premium markets.
And Anne, for you, what was the year about?
Well, of course, you mentioned some of the big ones already, but something that stood out to me was the Delta Airlines and the way they are going about their AI pricing or using AI for pricing. I find this super interesting, especially the response of, we had that in the press, like Washington Post and New York Times, etc., and loads of stories about this. I, of course, think that they're making a really good move with this. I think they're automating so much more of their revenue management and pricing, which I think is a really good move for Delta. So that was interesting for me to follow.
Yeah, I forgot about that entirely. I'm very surprised at the backlash on that story because for me, so what? It's no problem for me. I don't care.
And that was with Fetcher, right? If I remember Anne correctly, that's
Fetcher. That's Fetcher. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the Fetcher CEO had to go in and try to clean it up and explain how it's not really AI, but kind of like AI.
Yeah. But I mean, there is just so much you can do when you take a look at Fetcher of how you can just gather so much more information in your decision making than you've been able to do in the past. So it makes perfect sense. Yeah. I really like what Fetcher are doing. So I was really surprised that the response by the public in general when it comes to this.
Yeah. Okay, so no surprise, the companies we mentioned the most. So 30% of the events we covered, we mentioned American Airlines. Good or bad, you decide. So that was 16 times we've mentioned American Airlines in discussions. And then Amex GBT came in second with 13 mentions, mostly at the start of the year, of course. 2 other airlines which had lots of mentions were United and Lufthansa. Again, sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? For the latter, mostly bad, I have to say. And Ryanair was mentioned a lot. They've fallen our top 5. And then we also talked mostly about Qantas, Sabre, Qatar, Indigo, Air France, KLM, and Delta throughout the year.
Qantas was bad all year.
Qantas was all bad, all the time. We never had a single good story about Qantas. Now, Ash, I know you told us about stories which wasn't mentioned, etc. But what was your sort of story of the year?
Well, I think the story for me of the year, and because I'm in the North American market, was that we had a long period of government shutdown that was supposed to create chaos in the skies. Yep. But I traveled during those days personally, and I saw the airport. Yep. I was very, very, very impressed. And this is kudos to the TSA, the FAA for maintaining the U.S. skies and keeping order while not getting paid during that time period. And that kind of shows that if you go above and beyond and you try to do things, and we don't expect that from government entities as much as we do from the private sector. But, the idea of going above and beyond and doing your job no matter what and keeping things flowing no matter what, I think really showcases what is possible and what we're all capable of doing. The airports were really in good shape. The news folks, the media people were, of course, frequenting airports to try to show something bad. But their only assessment was, there's no lines. Everything is smooth. People are flowing through properly. So they couldn't really get a negative headline. And I think that's really shows a great, great job by the TSA and the FAA.
Yeah, indeed. Anne, what story stood out the most for you?
I think it was definitely Ryanair failing with the loyalty. That really shocked me and surprised me.
Okay.
I mean, I never anticipated, never saw that coming.
Speaking of other failures, obviously there's the ongoing corporate travel management, CTM, and their accounting scandal.
Still going.
Still going,
Almost
yeah.
$100 million. And I see from my notes that Gemini is reminding me that we also WebJet, they paid a fine, $9 million for misleading sales, but they're subject to a Hello World travel acquisition at the moment. And there were a few others who got their fingers burned with incorrect numbers.
From a category perspective, one of the areas that I think really showcased itself in a really positive way was ride sharing and ground transportation.
Okay.
Sometimes we forget about them because they're kind of at the low end of the spectrum. They definitely made some huge strides. I'll mention a few. So Lyft, if you remember, I brought the story up a couple of times that Lyft, the ground company, has done a huge expansion into the European market. In April, they bought FreeNow. Then in October, they bought TBR. So that was a huge move. And then Uber bought Dan Taxi this year as well. So, ground was moving from North America and shifting to the European market. I thought that was pretty big. And then the other big thing is that loyalty relationships between the ground and the airlines had also shifted. So Lyft was a big partner of Delta Airlines for a long, long time. Delta booted Lyft out and brought in Uber and created that partnership. And then Lyft found themselves a new friend in United. That was some moves from ground. I thought those were pretty important moves. We'll see that play out in 2026.
Yeah, good two reminders of those as well, Ash, indeed. Thank you for the comment there from Nzinga about the stories that stood out for her was the expansions at Heathrow and Gatwick. May they go forth, hopefully. Let's see what happens there. The company which I wished we could have talked about more or wished we saw more in the headlines is Kite. We saw them with three major stories, the partnership with Wizz Air, they've signed Jet2 Holidays, they got Johnny Thorstman on board as well. Alice Ferrari is non-stoppable, and I thought we would see a little more of them, but I don't want to make that my prediction for 2026, but I do think we will see a lot more of Kite in 2026 and how they are changing the landscape, especially corporate travel. And there is a fabulous interview with her on businesstravel360.com, which you can go and find. So I have a prediction for 2026. Who wants to go? Ash, what is yours?
I'm not going to go with the typical, AI is going to do this and all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to be expected anyway. I'm going to say that the One World Alliance is going to showcase themselves a big time in 2026. I think there were some significant pieces that came together this year. I mentioned a couple with Alaska and Atmos and all that kind of stuff. So Hawaiian is going to be a big thing. But I think for the first time, they have added pieces. From a loyalty perspective, I think One World has the best loyalty program. If you talk to anybody, how they partner with their friends within the alliance, the benefits that travelers get from that relationship, it really impacts the experiences of the traveler. So I think One World is going to be in the news quite a bit in a positive way next year. And I think that we're going to see some significant news from all their partners from around the world.
Okay. I would not have picked that one. I thought you were going to go with a rail story. Probably don't know you well.
No hope there. There won't be any hope in that.
Okay, Anne, what is your prediction 2026? What are we going to see?
Well, first of all, I think we're going to see more of unusual partnerships. And we're already seeing Turkish Airlines and Southwest. And I think maybe, hopefully 2026 will be the year when it will finally sort of take off with, it's a wrong expression saying virtual connectivity, but, API to API connectivity between airlines. Okay. I really do believe in that. And secondly, I think that coming back to AI and agentic AI and MCP, I think it's finally going to show us that it's much more about what the customer experience can bring and what do we actually want to achieve, instead of talking about a standard for 12 years or something, that we finally start talking about how can we help the customer in a better way.
The result. Yes.
The result.
Okay. Brilliant. Those are fantastic mentions. I mean, unusual partnerships really tickles me. I like that a lot. Yeah, the result, not the how to. That's a good one. Okay, cool. I mean, I don't have any significant predictions. I'm going to say that the one thing we will see is what is the truth behind Global Airlines and James Asquith. We will see this in 2026. It can't go on beyond that. I am absolutely convinced. And we have been speculating about one of our GDSs possibly being acquired by another outside player. Maybe 2026 is the year that's going to happen. That's kind of my take on it. Those are my two predictions. And our next event will then be on the 5th of January, right? So just as a reminder. And again, just thank you to all of our regular listeners for that. So anything else?
Well, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends at IDLITE. IDLITE became a sponsor of Business Travel 360 shows. So I just wanted to say thank you to them from a holiday message perspective.
Sorry, I pressed the button there.
Yeah, you were like, I was like, wow, I didn't know you were queuing.
I second that. That is nice of them. That is a wrap for 2025. Thank you so much for our growing audience. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to both of you guys for being there every week. Thank you for that. And over to you, Anne.
Thank you so much to our fantastic audience. And thank you to you two guys, and especially for putting up with my very, very late travel arrangements. And I'm glad this worked out very last minute. Thanks, everyone. Over to you, Ash.
And I just want to thank everybody for joining today's live recording of Linking the Travel Industry. We record this podcast every week. And as Rian mentioned, the next one will be on January 5th. Please share this event with as many people as you know. If you ever miss a show, remember, you can always go to Business Travel 360 to listen to past podcasts. This is Linking the Travel Industry, signing off.